Okay, hello everyone. So maybe third time's the charm. I've been trying to make this video for a while. I've been going to different places and I'm going to find a quiet spot in nature in the city. But I wanted to do it outside because I wanted to do a video about animal totems. So animal totems are so much in our vernacular these days. We use it constantly, like what a bitch, you dirty dog, hot dog, dog eat dog, the dog days of summer, early bird, night owl, catty, fat cat, copycat, fraidy cat, cat's meow, I smell a rat, there's something fishy, ants in your pants. It's in our vernacular. So people want to know, like, what is your animal totem? And there's lots of ways to find out. One of the best books that I've ever encountered is a book by Ted Andrews called Animals Speak. And it's fabulous. It has all sorts of, it's kind of like the Bible of animal totems. I was lucky enough to meet him at the Nature Center in Ohio one time. I attended a workshop and he was a really cool guy. But that book is like the great work in animal totems as far as I'm concerned, and it's very thorough. Another way to discover your animal totems, like, what do you collect animals? Lots of people collect things, like if you collect elephants or butterflies, well, chances are that is your animal totem. And I feel like you can have more than one totem in your life, and I feel like they come and they go due to things that you'll be going through in your life. An animal totem may come in to help you get through a particular time in your life. While I was raising my children and when they were young, many people told me that I had a panther energy around. And if you look at panther, it means the panther totem, the main thing is about the mother panther and how she fiercely protects her children and how she doesn't allow anyone else to tell her how to raise her children. And I would say that that would definitely have been true when I was raising my children. So crows and ravens have been my main totem throughout my entire life, and one of the main functions that they serve for me is they show me the direction. You know, prior to GPS and everything, anytime I would be lost, I'd always look to the sky, and without fail, the crows would show up and caw-caw, and they would lead me the way. They would show me the way to go. I remember one time I was with my mother and we were going somewhere, something having to do with the bar. We were going to pick something up and we were driving way out somewhere. And I'm driving, we had my dad's truck, I'm driving, and I'm like, we got lost. And I'm like, well, there's the crows, they're gonna show us which way to go. And my mom's like, keep your eyes on the wheel. Looking at the birds, you should be keeping your eyes on the wheel. She's freaking out and yelling at me. But the crows actually were flying in the correct direction, and they did show us the way to go. Also years ago, when my kids were small, they had a school project, and I was outside. We were walking along behind our house. There was like a little wooded area with railroad tracks. So they had to collect certain kinds of whatever. I think it was leaves or something out of nature they needed. So we're walking down the railroad tracks, and the whole time I had this very uneasy feeling that something was watching us. So there's woods around, and it very well could have been like an animal or something. So all of a sudden the crows show up, and they're leading us down this little path off to the side. So without question, you know, I just followed them. And sure enough, we come out of the woods into the clearing, and we come out and there is a police car, two police cars actually, two cops talking to each other. So I just, you know, we went over that way and we stood around for a little bit by the cops, and, you know, they were looking for their leaves or whatever they were looking for. And then I went back, and when I went back, the uneasy feeling was gone. So in that case, I knew that it had to be a person, because it wasn't a wild animal, because why would the crows lead me directly to the cops? It must have been some person in the woods, you know. Luckily, I never found out for sure, and I don't know that I'd want to, but it's so funny that the crows led us right to two policemen. Another thing involving my children and the crows when they were small, my children when they were small, and the crows, had to do with, they were getting to the age where I thought I might want to, you know, get them involved in some sort of organized religion. And at that time I was already well on the spiritual path. You know, I wasn't, I had sort of, you know, left religion behind to follow my own true path. So I'm driving one day, I was worrying about this, and I was calling the different churches, and they all wanted me to take classes and join their church, and I really was not wanting to do that. Really, I was just doing it to please my grandparents who were still living, and my mom, you know, she's like, well, you got to get them in the church. So anyway, so I'm driving along one day, and I see the crow, and I thought these other birds were attacking the crow, and that will happen, but that was not the case. As she returned to this giant tree, I'm sitting in traffic, she returns to this giant tree, and the other two birds that I thought were kind of attacking her, they were sort of falling on her, or maybe I thought they were biting her tail, but they joined her in the tree, and I realized that those were her children, and that she was teaching her children to fly. So there was my answer right there. So do not, teach your children to fly. Teach them the path that you're on, and that's exactly what I did. Okay, so it's not only in wild animals. Domestic animals have much to teach us and much to learn and many messages for us. And animals, they will stay around sometimes. Like I've had animal pets that will stay around and still guard me afterwards. I had a dog, Argus, years ago, and he stayed with me for a long time after. And anybody who actually has pets would verify that, you do communicate with your pets, and they do have personalities. And regarding animals passing, like my dog Teddy Bear, and we used to call it, I feel like animals have, like my pet animals have other animal totems as well, like Teddy Bear. Now, I didn't name him, he was a child, but he definitely did have like a bear totem. And when he passed away, he passed at home, he was in the kitchen, he was confined to the kitchen. I mean, we tried to take him in to put him down, and he was not having it. My daughter came over to help me, and he was not having it. He let me know clearly he wanted to die at home. He was very old, and so he was confined to the kitchen just because of the mess and everything. And so I went in there just to keep him company, and I got out my drawing, and I started drawing, and I drew this picture of this beautiful woman who I believe was like some sort of guardian angel to Teddy coming to get him. I'm going to put it up on the screen over here. The other thing with my dog Merlin, who happens to be, a lot of wolf in him, more than one time I've seen like this man, he has like a man spirit. One time, the bathroom was dark, I was going into the bathroom to turn the light on, and I saw like a shadow of a man walking towards me, and I like somebody's in the bathroom, and it was Merlin, and when I came into the light, it was only Merlin. And it happened just the other day. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a full standing human being, and it was just Merlin. So it's like, and I don't know if it's the wolf in him or what, but he's got like this man spirit attached to him. And he is way smarter than like an average dog, just because, he does have that wolf in him. And I believe, animals, dogs and cats, they see spirits. And I addressed that a little bit in my Psychic Children video, if you want to check that out more, some of the experiences I've had with that, because I advocate having a pet if you're a psychic child. Another thing with domestic animals, they can totally sense when somebody's good or bad, and this was never so poignant to me. So years ago, we would sit on the porch at my house, and but one day there's these kids, like teenage kids, young teenagers walking by, and I'm thinking, oh, they're gangbangers or something. I was still, and it says a lot about where I was at also, that I automatically went to that place of fear. And so these kids are walking by with their big boombox radio and everything, and those long white t-shirts, and I'm just like, but they must be gangbangers, It's me and my own fear. And the dogs are laying on the porch with me, and I'm kind of like, who's there? I'm trying to like rile them up to start barking. They're just laying on the porch and not responding at all. And I'm like, oh great, these dogs, great watchdogs you are. And then there was this old man who I thought was this sweet old man that would walk by nearly every day. I think he took the bus home from work or something. And they would go crazy, and they'd be growling and drooling and trying to attack him. And I'm like, what's the matter with you? And he was I thought, such a sweet old man. He would say hello and how you doing and everything. And I'm like, why are these dogs trying to kill this old man, and yet these teenagers they won't even respond to? Well, came to find out later that the old man was somewhat like a pedophile. And the dogs knew that. The dogs knew that there was something not right about it. And I consider myself psychic, I didn't pick it up. I thought he was this sweet, harmless old man, but the dogs knew that he might be a threat to my children. And they also knew that those other kids with the boombox were no threat. They were just kids hanging out. So that was like a big lesson for me. And I feel like these pets, I've seen that they have other animal totems, like Eddie, the dog that I inherited from my brother. He looked like a dolphin, and I used to call him my little dolphy boy. And then Teddy, of course, was Teddy Bear, and he looked like a bear. And Merlin, besides having the man spirit, he also reminds me of a moose. I don't know if it's just because he's so big or what. And I am somewhat of an animal whisperer, and I feel like we all have that with our pets. A few times that I can remember, once when I had a dog named Sky, and my daughters were little, and I was somewhere, and I came, or they were upstairs, and all of a sudden Sky comes down and runs up to me, and the girls, they come downstairs, and I'm like, what did you do to her? And they're going, nothing, nothing. And Sky's just looking at me, and I go, no, Sky, tell me you're doing something. And they're like, no, Mom, we weren't doing anything. And then finally they confess that seeing her up in the clothes, like which lots of kids will do, and taking pictures of the dog, but she didn't like it, and she let me know. And the kids even, confessed to me because they knew that the dog was really talking to me. Something that happened more recently. So I'm over at my daughter's house, and the cat actually was her boyfriend's cat, and they had just moved in together. And my daughter was in a bad mood and behaving rather cantankerously, I guess. And I looked over at the cat, and the cat's just looking at me like, oh, sister, I know what you mean. I had kids too. And I go, that cat's had kittens, hasn't she? I asked my daughter. She goes, no, she's fixed. Well, she come to find out later, she asked her boyfriend, and the cat had kittens at some point. And I knew the cat had kids. So she was like shaking her head at me like one mother to another, like, oh, I know kids can just be a handful at times. And I knew that's what she was conveying to me. One of the most this was pretty intense, this happened to me years ago, also when my children were very small. We were at the zoo, and there was lots of kids. I think it must have been like free day because it was packed, and there was all sorts of kids there. And we went into the gorilla at our zoo. The gorillas are like behind glass, so we were in it's like a, what do you call it, the monkey house or something. It's like a building you go into, and all these little kids were screaming and pounding on the window at this gorilla, and my eyes met with the gorilla, and it was this intense moment, and I was actually ashamed to be human at that point. I was so, because they were acting so barbarically. And my eyes met with this gorilla, and what I tried to do is I sent the gorilla the message. I said, I'm sorry. I was apologizing for mankind, basically, and I send you love and peace and respect. I sent like a message to the gorilla. So that happened, and after that, I didn't want to go to the zoo after that, because that was just like, ooh, it just made me not want to go to the zoo at all. I just felt like it was so wrong. So then years later, I ended up moving near the zoo, and I started going back there more often. I love going there in the winter because it's very peaceful and quiet. There's nobody around. So it was like a blizzard day. It was a really bad snow day, really cold. I think I was like the only person in the entire zoo. And I got on the bus, which I never ride the little commuter bus. I always walk. But it was cold and horrible weather, so the bus pulled up and opened the door and said, you need a ride. So I said, yeah, why not? I get on the bus, and there was just me and the bus driver lady, and I'm telling her the story of the gorilla and how that's why I don't come to the zoo anymore. And she told me something that really stuck with me. She said, that's why people like you should come to the zoo, because you need to send them the positive energy and the healing energy. They need people like you to come to the zoo. And it made a big impact on me, and I never forgot it. And I did start going to the zoo often, and I still to this day do go often, and I do send all the animals, positive energy. But the thing about that, after that, I looked for her on the bus, and I never saw her again. And I often wondered if she was just an angel, and I just got chills when I said that. I still wonder, I think she was some kind of an angel or something. So that's something you can do too. Now, as far as your personal animal totems, I think people look like their animal totems. You'll see it in them. I remember I live in my house that was my grandparents' and my grandmother's home, and one day I saw a mouse actually dying outside. But anyways, I looked at it. It was out in the open. It wasn't running away. You could tell that it was, too sick to move. But I looked at it, and it changed into my grandmother. So it's like that'll happen. And then there was this guy that we knew that lived across the street, and he looked like a rat. He really did look like a rat. And people in the neighborhood said that he did turn out to be a rat. But he even had one of those rat tails and everything, and his face, everything. I mean, he really looked like a rat. And people do look like their totems. And another cool thing happened with other people's animal totems. I was at the bar. My family had the bar. So I'm at the bar, And the back door was open, and near the back door there was a little broom closet. So we put a little curtain over it to, you know, so you wouldn't see the brooms and mops and stuff in there. So I'm sitting there one day, and my back's to it. It's like back here, you know, and it just kept catching my eye. That curtain, the back door was open, and that wind was blowing that curtain, as if to call me, you know, almost. So finally I get up and I walk over there, and I'm standing in the back hallway, the back door's open, and I saw a panther run by the door. I swear to God, I saw a panther run by the door. So then I'm like, holy crap, what is that? I walk outside, and I turn to the left of the doorway, and this guy Carlos is standing there smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, holy crap, I just saw a panther run by here. You know, and I knew it was a spirit thing too, but it was his animal totem. And he definitely looked kind of like a panther too. I could see that. And he was kind of, I found out after that he was kind of into mystical stuff, you know, and he was a Scorpio, and he had this mystical dark side, I guess you could say. Well, there was a big raptor flew over. I hope you guys could see it. That's why I wanted to film outside, to see if some animals would make an appearance. Animal totems are big bringers of signs and omens, definitely. Years ago I had this dream that somebody was knocking on my front door. I opened the front door, and a giant squirrel was standing there, and it handed me a wallet. And to this day, when I see a lot of squirrels, I know I have some money coming. Another thing that happens quite often is these birds will do, I call it the happy dance. They'll like fly around in a circle and kind of hop up and down, and right in front of my, usually when I'm driving, like right in front of my windshield. And usually when those birds are doing that happy dance, something good's gonna pop, something good's gonna happen. Just the other day, the birds were doing the happy dance, and they almost hit me in the windshield. And what they were trying to catch a moth, and there was two of them, and they were kind of bouncing around and dancing and trying to catch this moth, and they were all happy and excited. And I think the moth got away. I was hoping it would. And a while ago I was getting hawks like crazy. I was getting hawks. I was at a lawyer's office on the 10th floor, and these two hawks came and like tangled up with each other and took off in other directions. And I'm talking to the lawyer, and I'm just kind of, I'm just like that. I'd stop mid-sentence, and I'm going, and I'm like pointing, and the lawyer turns around, and they were gone already. So like the message was just for me. And during that same time frame, I was playing music one day, and all of a sudden I was seeing red tails like crazy, and they were flying right in front of my window when I'm driving and everything. And I was playing music, and I look outside the window, and there's a giant one sitting right on the fence outside my window. So I sat there for a few minutes, and I was kind of trying to tune in and see what it was, but then I ran to get my camera, and I came back, and it flew away. And I did keep a little footage of it. I'll show you it. So it sat outside in the tree for a while, and I went outside, and all you could see was the tree. And I'm going to put some of the footage up. It's like it did not want to be filmed. Its message was just for me. And I'm still not even 100% sure what it was. Another thing that happened around that time, and I live in a very urban area, mind you. I know lots of people get deer in their yard, but that doesn't happen in the city. You know? And I'm sitting outside, and all of a sudden I hear plunk, 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 like galloping. I look behind me, and there's two deer in my neighbor's yard, which is a very rare occurrence. So, and it's like that. Once you're open up to messages from nature and animal spirits, it'll start happening more and more. And I had a few messages right before 911. I had a couple crazy things happen with animals. And the first one was I was standing outside. My cousin was visiting with her boyfriend. And because it's my grandmother's house, they wanted a picture in front of the house. So I'm standing there taking the picture of them in front of the house. And all of a sudden, this praying mantis lands on my, big giant one, lands on my shoulder. Well, it startled me so bad, I freaked out. And it brushed it off, so I didn't really get a chance to figure out what that was. But that was right before 9/11. And then the day of 9/11, there was this giant butterfly, or moth. I guess I found out that it was actually a moth. But this thing was huge, and it was hairy. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought it was a mouse because it was hairy, but it had a lot of color on it. And then it was, I saw it later. I got a call from the school, and they said they're sending all the kids home after 9/11. It was the day of. And then it was bouncing on the window. And then I opened the window, and it flew away. But it was giant. It was this big, and it was hairy. But it was colorful, too. But those two things both occurred like right before 9/11 and then on 9/11. So that was another couple things that I mean, I don't always know what they mean. But I always note them. And I figure, well, maybe at some point I will know what they mean. You know, butterflies are a thing. Many people feel like butterflies are the spirit of loved ones passed on, and I think that's true too. And I remember I had a partner at one time, and his mom passed, and we were at a concert inside this amphitheater, and we saw this butterfly, and he said, "Oh, I think that's the spirit of my mom," and I believed it too. I think I kind of rubbed off on him. One of my good friends, Tawanda, passed away, and I was outside paying the house, and these butterflies were around, and I felt like it might be Tawanda's spirit, and she was psychic and spiritual too, you know, and I felt like it was Tawanda's spirit in some way, and I kept asking, I'm like, well, is it really you? If it's you, show me, you know, is it you? And then more and more butterflies were coming, there's butterflies everywhere, and I'm still like, okay, if it's you, you got to give me some kind of sign that I really, really know it's you. And a butterfly flew, bam, and it hit me right in the face, right in my third eye. You know, so then I knew that it actually hit me in the head. So that, and sometimes you have to be hit over the head to get the message. But I know that was my friend Tawanda coming through. Shortly after 9/11, I ended up getting breast cancer, and I'm cured now. I'm healthy now for a long time, more than 10 years. But at any rate, while I was going through the treatments, every day I wanted to go to the lake. I'm like, we got to go to the lake, and he would come with me, and we'd go to the lake, and we'd play frisbee, and I would sit in that lake and just let that healing water of the lake, you know, heal me. Well, the one day we're sitting there, and these dragonflies just came, and there were hundreds of them. And we were just sitting there, and they were just shoo, 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 like flying this close to our heads and all around me. And it made me laugh. They were tickling my aura, and I believe that they were clearing my aura and eating. I felt like they were eating up all the negativity and the illness in me. And he was freaking out because he wasn't all that spiritual to begin with. But after that he became a true believer because it was totally magical, totally crazy. I wasn't afraid at all. You know, you'd think they were just zoom, zoom, and they were big ones too, and they were buzzing right by all around it. There was hundreds of them. And I do believe that I had some kind of healing like that. And I've been back to that lake many times. I filmed a couple of videos there recently, and I've never seen him again. I've gone to that spot many times, never seen him again. And there is a hawk right outside my window. I hope I can catch him. Oh, he flew away, damn it. He was right outside my window. What message do you have for me, my friend? Hello? I don't want to let the dogs out because they might. I'll definitely spook them. This thing flew right up to my window when I was playing. It was making noise. Hopefully it wasn't killing a bird. It sounded like squealing. I looked out, and there it was, sitting on the fence, like a foot away from my window where I was playing. What's the message there about a hawk? Can I go out there and see? I'll spook them. What is the message, my friend? Are they just coming to chow down on my birds at the bird feeder? I'm not hurting you. Oh, that cat. I'm trying to get that cat. That cat's trying to get you.